uh, your nephew Alfred Harris, and I'm going to be just having a discussion with you for the purpose of recording all of your thoughts and memories and anything else that you can share with me for the distribution to the family about the history of the Boles and your life and just anything else we talk about.
Well, I'd be glad to share that I can recall, which is most of it.
Most of it?
I've had a beautiful life.
Well, Uncle, when were you born, and who were your parents?
I was born in May the 28th, 1915, and I was born under the hill around down at the Winnie Patch. I believe I was born there. And my parents were Mr. and Mrs. Thomas Boles, Louis Wesson Boles. I was born anymore. I was the sixth of 18 children. I was the one in the middle.
Sixth of?
In 18 years, 12 children were born.
I see.
And I was the sixth child from the top and the bottom.
And brothers and sisters, if you could.
I had 5 brothers and sisters older than I am, and 5 younger.
Do you recall their names?
In order, the oldest one was Hubert Boles, and Victoria was the second. You want to go on the ages?
Well, if you just
Hubert was born in 1906. June the 3rd.
Mm-hmm.
Victoria was born, second child born, January the 8th, 1908. Adrian was the third. He was born
Well, if you don't
August the 20th, 1909.
Mm-hmm.
Kelsey was the fourth. He was born November 6, 1911. Nellie was the fifth, born August 15th, 1913.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was born in May 1915. And the next one was Grady. Grady was born April the 10th, 1917.
Mm-hmm.
Bidel was the next one. She was born July the 23rd, 19. Tommy was the fourth. Tommy's next. She was born February the 28th, 1921. Then in 1923, there was a baby who was born, I believe, around in October, but she lived about 2 or 3 months, and she died. And as far as I remember, her name was Caria Ann. And then in 1924, the last of the Mohicans came, Lois and Lewis.
You had twins born.
They were twins. Lois was the first one and Lewis was the second one. And they were born September the 6th, 1924.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the 12 children given birth to. And all 12 of these children lived to 1983. Boles was the first one that passed.
Mm-hmm. But all of you all were born in the community of Center Point, Arkansas.
Yes.
Uh,
Yeah, right in, almost, maybe in little different houses.
mm-hmm.
Something.
Different houses.
Well, that one was moved out from the winter patch up to the other house, the log house, and this house that you have there.
Oh, you all weren't living in that house? All
When all was born. When all of us were born, no.
Is that right?
We
I didn't know
when,
that. Well, who was living in that house?
Who was born in that house?
Well, who would have been if you wasn't
I
born
was
in?
born down at the winter patch, but they lived in a house down at the mailbox. You know,
Grandpa
the mailbox?
Boles?
Yeah, they lived down there.
Oh, who was living in that house?
Well, they built that house. That's the house that Papa's mother. That's the home place where his mother would live.
Mm-hmm.
And they huge logs and built them and built that house.
Mm-hmm. So, and that was
It was just 2 rooms now when they.
the log home that I knew as a child was the home of Ann Boles originally.
Well, she might not. I don't know whether it was the whole house.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe it was the same
Structure. Mm-hmm.
It was in the same spot, but I don't believe it's the same because they either it might have been one. It might have been just one room.
Mm-hmm.
That she lived.
One room on as a
That's
log
what
cabin, more or less.
Yeah, most likely.
But now, of course, I'm
And
learning something I didn't know now.
Well, see, the kitchen, it was just one big log room.
Mm-hmm.
You remember?
Mm, yes,
The
ma'am.
kitchen was added on. It was boarded.
Mm-hmm.
You remember?
I remember the room, the kitchen, and the table, and
Yeah.
there was a little back porch right outside the kitchen.
Wasn't a back porch right then. Wait a minute.
No,
now.
back then.
Yeah, I mean, it's the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
It was one big room, evidently, and then when Papa and them rebuilt, then they added. I mean, made out of logs, and then they put that kitchen on. It was boards.
Well, when you were born,
We moved in there. I don't know. B.D.I. was born there, and Tommy, and
Mhm.
Louis Norris.
well, who would have been living in it before Grandpa?
Well,
and
I don't see that. It wasn't, but I don't know how. I don't know who. I don't know where they lived. Oh, I
can't recall that.
No, who lived in that before because they got the logs, and he got the logs and got them and rebuilt it. Evidently, it was just, they rebuilt what grandmother had.
Mm-hmm.
What she had rebuilt around it or something.
Well, the home that you were born in, the Winnie Patch, is where Grandmother and Grandpa lived at that time.
Yeah, they lived down there.
In the
Our little house down there.
well, whose home?
Neighbor.
Whose house would that have been?
I guess. Now let me see. Wait just a minute.
That you rolling on? you
I got to stay still here.
well as still as you can. I know you got. You've been rolling on me there. I had to catch up with you.
That's why you were rocking. Well, now, see, I might have been born up in Cheney's place. It seems that I might have been. B.D.I. was born seemingly down at the mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
And she had muscadine eyes. Posted. Hello?
Knock, knock.
Well, look who's here. Hello?
Hey,
Oh, what
Sharon.
you doing?
Well,
You
you
ain't
on
say
it.
your word about Cleola Boles.
About you, man.
Well, you ain't say much about me.
How you doing?
How you doing?
Okay.
Where's your wife at?
Oh, they out doing their thing.
Oh, yeah, I know that's right.
In
Hey.
It's hot in here. I don't know.
What's your name?
I don't know what.
Scotty?
My son Scotty.
Scotty, I ain't never met Scotty.
Give us some sugar.
Scotty, let me get you.
Oh, he's a sweet boy.
Tell us who you are, Scotty.
Tell me your name.
Scott Samuel Boles.
Scott Samuel. And how old are you?
4.
4. Well, great, Scott. Nice to see you. And who's your mother?
Sharon.
Well, let's get her around here on the camera here. And tell us.
You got the work company.
Yeah.
I'm Sharon Wind Robles.
Come on, I don't
My
think
mother
you
was
can
Irma
drop
Bowes.
Okay.
They're making it.
I don't think you can.
The door's not locked.
Come on in, Zach the Connie.
Aren't y'all hot?
All right.
You know why you first here? How you doing?
Hi, how are you?
I'm being interviewed. Albert, do you know any of the Connie boys?
They're going to make
That's it.
Cyborg City.
You gonna-
Cyborg City.
Sideboard setting too?
Uh-huh. It's where this robot, you gotta be fast to get past him.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't, he'll eat you, or he'll slime you into the slime pit.
Oh, is that right?
And you're gonna
Oh,
be
I know what I
stuck
call
inside that slime pit.
Hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on. You got Cynthia's picture out here.
He's big Power Ranger.
Yeah, Major.
Big Power Ranger then, huh?
And or he'll slam you to beat the cyborg.
Oh, put you in Cyborg is big monster?
No, Auntie, I'm doing
He's a big robot.
Big robot.
I don't do pies or cakes, Auntie.
Okay, nobody want to talk about
You know, I don't do that stuff.
okay.
All right, I'm out of here.
Yeah, turn that light on. I'm going to get Albert on the bulb. Now,
Well, I'm going to start recording again. Well, Uncle, we were talking about where you were born and the old house. We got into a discussion about the... You said you were born at the Winnie Patch.
No, I believe I was born at Cheney Place.
Cheney Place, which would have been...
Ain't Cheney Place, straight up. Out in front, so where Lee and them have. And Cheney's property. You know,
And
the
that would
property
all-
east of us.
Would that be all the way up
Right
at the
near up to
crossroads?
nearly to the crossroads.
So she had a house up there? And,
That ain't Cheney lived there. She had a beautiful island. We used to go up there. She lived there before they moved to Ashdown.
mm-hmm.
They had a house. They had even a lot of muscadine vine. That was popular. Muscadine was popular. They have a skep nine. I never see ever get that.
What was that?
A skep nine is that's the bone. It was like a hold it. Hello? Yeah. Hush my apples right here. You want to talk to Alfred a minute? Here goes that booger Ernest.
Oh, is that
You
right?
said Ben. Only for the son. Well, Sharon just left. She came and got that dinner, and she's gone on. Jerry's here somewhere, but he's looking for Wayne. So, well, tell everybody hello when you get there. Yeah, okay. All right. Here's Alfred.
Buck in there, boy. Buck in there. Oh, ain't nothing. They're his kinfolks. Yeah, you on your way down. Yeah, y'all having any luck at all yet? Is that right? All out of in your camp? In the club? Any big ones? Is that right? Well, that's good. That's good. And that's good. Y'all got the dogs running, or yeah, that's good. Man. That's good. Well, I'm just sitting here and trying to get an interview, but it's gonna be a long, drawn out affair now. Yeah. Oh, we're gonna leave tomorrow and try to run. Matter of fact, hopefully run through Centerpoint, Nashville, and go by and see Luella while we're down there if we can. Try to get back tomorrow night. Yeah. Oh yeah, doing fine, doing fine. She's out there with these mad folks today. Mm. Oh, I know it, man. Yeah, I went over to Home Depot this morning and it was just a major traffic jam. Just over there in Little Rock, 6:30, just trying to get into that. And no, but y'all take it easy, man. Be careful. Be careful. Oh, okay, Ernest. All righty, bud. Yeah, Ernest.
It's not here.
Well, they love it. I enjoyed it, but
That's
I enjoyed just the family side going down and.
That's the name.
And,
See, when were we?
But so you recall? Do you recall the Unchaney's place?
Yes.
While we're talking about house places, you recall her home
home, yeah. It's
and-
a big
and
house.
where she lived?
Picking up trees. Yeah, up on kind of a little hill.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we used to go up there all the time after they left. And yes.
Did the house just fall in? Nobody else lived in it?
Well, it's just
Just
caved in.
caved
And
in.
the well, they had a well there, and we used to go up there together. Walnuts, hickory nuts, and what have you, and the skep nines, and I never shall forget. Yeah, there was a trail up through there, rolled up right up on the.
Well, when did you?
And see, Aunt Cheney's place joined Aunt Catherine. Papa's was next, Aunt Catherine's was east of Papa, down now. Aunt Catherine she had Papa's 5 acres,
Mm-hmm.
and Aunt Catherine was 5, and then Aunt Cheney's, of course, they had more than
Mm-hmm. So who was Unchaney married to?
Ed Hendricks.
Ed Hendricks. And they lived and had children there
Yeah.
at the time
Oh,
you were a
oldest.
child.
Yeah.
He lived down there.
They had children along with older than I am.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you met Otis, didn't you?
Mm,
Lee lived in Coffeyville.
I don't know if I
Lee and
met
Exie.
that.
And by the way, their grandson just died. You met Will Lee Hendricks, didn't you? Coming out of Coffeyville.
No, I don't think so, Cleola.
Well, anyway, and you never did meet Edward them in
No,
Phoenix.
ma'am.
And you never did meet Cousin Otis. Otis came here one homecoming.
I don't think I did.
Well, those Aunt Cheney had Lee, Lonnie, and Osie. Lonnie lived in Idyville, and Osie lived in Yakima. Osie married Lanny.
Well, now were they down there when you were a child, or were they?
They all left there probably when but Fred and Sarah, Fred and Cheney was down there when I was born. And Aunt Cheney and them, Aunt Cheney and them son Fred had a house right up the road, a little schoolhouse right above the corner of the Winnie Patch. You know where the east corner of the Winnie Patch is, coming this way. The corner. Well, that's where that land joins there.
He had a
And
schoolhouse.
Fred had a little house, and the school bought it. That's we went to school there.
Mm-hmm.
Bought it because I was 6 years old. We were going to school up above. When I started the school, I was going up at the crossroad up to school.
Mm-hmm.
He would carry me on his back. I might have started at 5. I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember the first day I went, he carried me on his back. And, of course, we went to school for several years down there. Lewis Norris even was born then when I went to school. That little house, they bought it. Papa and Benson School bought it for a school.
Mm-hmm.
They had school in it one was good.
So, Uncle, down underneath the hill, down under the hill, where you were and the Boles family lived, was a community, kind of.
Yeah,
I mean, there was quite a few people.
quite a few.
What do you? How far back can you recall? And what families lived down there when you were growing up down there?
Well, Uncle Sam Weston lived down there. Uncle Sam.
And that was grandmother's
Uncle.
uncle.
And Grandpa was living down there. I remember when he lived down there.
And that was grandmother's father, William Weston.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he lived.
But he didn't live with Uncle Sam.
No, he lived right across from us. You remember my grade used to live over where he lived up on that hill, where the cistern, well, had a cistern.
So he had, William Weston and Sam Weston were brothers.
Yeah, and Uncle Sam bought over Mesa Creek, and Uncle William bought, his home was not quite all the way to Mesa.
Mm-hmm. Now they bought or
Yeah,
homesteaded?
Yeah, but bought it.
Is that right? Because
I guess they bought.
even homesteading, you had to pay something.
I
A
can't
little.
tell you now. I can't.
Mm-hmm.
They as far as they settled in there.
Well, was there any other of a Weston family that may have been related to them down there too?
Well, Uncle Sam, Uncle Miles, they had another brother. He was out toward the campground.
Mm-hmm.
Out that way. And Papa and Harley got some of these logs from over there and carried them up built on his house.
Miles Weston.
Uncle Miles built out there.
Mm-hmm. That was another brother.
Yeah. And then he moved out to Center Point. Now, Mom and them lived out at Center Point a short while, but they moved down. Grandpa moved down. I don't know whether he bought first, but Mom and them lived out.
Well, who do you recall on the Western side?
Living down there.
Well, in their family, the grandmother's father and his family, brothers and sisters. Who do you recall in that part of the family?
Now, I remember Grandpa.
William Weston.
Yeah.
And
his second wife. Now, I remember Miss Winnie. He still lived over there. He married Miss Winnie. Mama's mother died, and he married Miss Winnie.
is that why you were?
And while I was living, and I was a child, and she used to come over and visit. I remember when she had a daughter named Ida from down. He went down to Middle Springs and got her Miss Winnie, and she had a grandson named Tyree Floyd. And then when Grandpa left from over there, he sold that house to Bert Nesbitt. And then Uncle Oscar lived down there.
Bert Nesbitt, was he a
He was
black
white,
man or?
He was white. He bought the big house.
Mm-hmm.
And had a little house down the road there named Maddie, and Uncle Oscar lived in that little house. And
Now, Oscar was
Mama's brother.
Oscar Weston.
They lived in that house down across the road. And one of the children, Steve, their children were along with us, and one got killed.
Whose kids were they?
Uncle Oscar named Maddie.
I see. Well, now you had William Weston, Sam Weston, Miles Weston, and who else in the western side?
The others lived at Center Point. The others lived at Center Point.
And who would they have been?
Uncle Fanny.
Fanny Weston.
She lived at Center Point. She married John Graves. As a cousin.
And they were living down there when you were on.
They didn't live down on the hill.
But they lived in Center Point.
Yeah. I don't think they lived on the hill. And Ann married. They lived up at Center Point.
Ann.
Grandpa's other sister. Ann Wesson.
And Grandpa, William Wesson had a sister named Ann Wesson.
Yeah, and she married Ferguson.
Okay.
That's how these Fergusons got related to. Okay.
Okay.
Oh, Lord.
And then, was there any others?
Well, let's see. Then Uncle Ducky Whitmore, that was a half brother.
Okay.
He settled up in Singapore.
The Whitmores.
Yeah, Uncle Ducky Whitmore.
Duckett
He
Whitmore.
was a half brother
Mm-hmm.
of theirs. Let me see, that was it. They had two sisters, and Uncle Sam, Uncle Grandpa, Uncle Miles. I believe that was it.
Was it on the western side? Was there pretty close family
Yes.
in terms of did they get to visit each other? And,
Yeah, and they come back. They came back to Uncle Sam, their sister and Fanny, and them come back from. And Fanny and them got married, and they moved to Hot Springs.
mm-hmm.
She and Aunt Ann, and that's back there when.
So Ann moved to Hot Springs also. The Fergusons.
Yes, yeah.
Okay,
She
so
moved to Hot Springs.
Fanny Wesson married John Graves, and then Ann Wesson married one of the Fergusons,
Yeah, married Harvey Ferguson.
Harvey Ferguson, and they moved over to Hot Springs.
That's right. When one of the Fergusons got killed, you know, and you ever heard that story? You got that book where Butler Ferguson got killed, shot Ted Henderson.
Mm,
A black man got hung, lynched.
what year would that have been?
Well, it's back in the days of
Early
Mama's
1900s.
childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Early.
And they moved out of that area when that happened.
They left. And Uncle Nat, they left there. Uncle Nat married, Papa's brother married one of the Ferguson women,
Same family of Ferguson?
Uncle Harv's sister.
Is that right?
They moved out of Springs. No, they went to Harvey.
Mm-hmm.
And they Maddie and Maggie, they all went to Oklahoma. They went to Oklahoma first, you know, up in Oregon and that kind of thing. And Uncle Nat never came back. You know, did you get one of these pictures with everybody on it? With the story of the family that I wrote, History of His Family. Huh?
I'm not sure.
One of the big pictures is everybody's 123 pictures on that.
Oh, the poster?
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And it's on the side, it's the family history.
Yes, ma'am. I get that.
Yeah, well, it's on there about that.
Well, okay, so all those folks lived down there and during your early childhood. And
Yeah.
then after that event, then some moved away.
Yeah, well, a lot of more people lived down there. Was some Sheffields lived down there.
Were they black or what?
Yes. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
There was, and Uncle Tom Piggy, they lived down, Uncle Tom and Catherine, they lived in the house down in front of us. And then Cheney on above them, and then on down there, Jesse Add, and just a lot of people.
Well, now, of course, the thing that I remember more than anything was the old house, the log house that grandmother and grandpa lived in. But that wasn't the main house for them when you were born.
Yeah.
They didn't necessarily live in that house.
Well, we did from the time we were little. Yeah, we went from that house from I must have been about 5 years old.
Y'all moved into that house about then?
I imagine, because we went from there up to school from that house.
Mm-hmm. And that was basically kind of a one-room and cabin, and then they began to add.
Well, really, we had. It was a long time before we had those other 2 rooms on both sides. Uncle Bud, Sammy came back and put that hole down there.
Mm-hmm.
Had those 2 rooms.
Well, Uncle Cleola, do you remember some of the day-to-day life when you were a child down there?
Yeah.
Y'all didn't have to do very much work. It was just kind of playing and play with dolls and
We worked from sun to sun. We worked from sun to sun. We got up in the morning. We, in the spring, and of course the season, of course, and it was from the time we were little. We could chop cotton, plant the cotton, till the soil, clear the land.
so it depends on
cut the logs.
Depend on the season of the year as to what y'all,
Yeah,
some of what you would do.
right. And they cut wood in the wintertime. They made most likely cut logs, split rails, that kind of thing. Getting the land clear.
Mm-hmm.
Had a new one called this the new ground. Next year got a new ground. So we chop cotton.
And Grandpa raised cotton.
Cotton, corn, peas, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Peanuts. Yeah. And we went to the field in the morning and did all good. And of course, Mama was home. We were big enough. We were all big enough when we got 6 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Work.
So as soon as you started
And
walking and you could do something, you were taught how to work. And
yeah, and we didn't have a well. We had to go for springs a lot, get water.
Mm-hmm.
We had to carry water a lot. And
everybody joined in as
everybody gathered in the wood and in the winter. We walked to school. When we were going to school down there, we always walked to the school.
Mm.
But later, when we got bigger, we maintained a little grade school down there. But they had to go out to Center Point to the high school.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes we didn't get to go. We missed school 1 or 2 years and got behind with our...
This is boys and girls, everybody.
Yeah, went to school together.
Mm-hmm.
And, yeah. And some of the teachers were, I remember my first teacher was Miss Priscilla Graves. She was from Center Point. She was a nice teacher.
And that was his house school under the hill?
Well, it was a grade school.
Mm-hmm. But was that under the hill or was that at Center
Yeah,
Point?
right up, it was up at the crossroad.
Is that right?
Going toward the campground.
Mm-hmm.
School out there. So I got big size. And then when I said we moved to both to the school down there where Fred. Oh boy, you don't want this type of stuff. Where Fred had a little house, he sold it to the school.
Fred
Hendricks.
I see.
Fred and Saber lived in as in Cheney's son. They sold it and had school there for a while. And then we had a school down in one of the houses down at the Benson place.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a pretty tough getting schooling, but we made it to, when I got in I guess the 9th grade, 8th grade, I had gone to Center Point.
Mm-hmm.
That was in 19, yeah, I can't put all that together,
Well,
piece by piece.
well, let's back up a minute, Uncle Cleola, if we can.
Yeah.
And you've named some of the Wessons and some of the Boles. Grandpa had brothers and sisters who lived in Center Point also, and they lived down there also when you were a child. Were all of them down there?
Some of them, when we were growing up, they probably moved just before I got big enough to remember.
I see.
Aunt Betty Aunt Betty left, and she married a Hendricks, and she left. Aunt Jane then moved to Ashdown. And Catherine then moved to Kansas. Catherine married Tom Piggy. Then Aunt Betty and Maggie and her uncle. And they all lived right there on somewhere on the place. They gave them to leave. Uncle Bob Rock married. Bob Rock lived in Luxembourg. He married Aunt Ellen, and they moved to Kansas. I think they all went to Ashdown before they left there, but they moved on into Kansas City. That's where Uncle Bob never ended up. And Uncle Tom and Aunt Catherine moved to Kansas. And Cheney and her Uncle Barney moved to Kansas.
Now, he was a piggy also.
Who?
Barney.
Hendrick. He was a Hendrick.
Barney Hendricks.
And Cheney married a Hendricks. And Betty married a Hendricks. He had Hendricks. They weren't brothers, I don't think. But Barney was a Hendricks. He married. And now these are the Edward them. You've heard of Edward. Counts.
Well, where did these families, the Hendricks family, live? Center Point?
They all
The
lived
people,
in Center Point.
but not under the hill.
But when they first married, I imagine they lived down there somewhere.
Is that right?
See, Aunt Cheney's place takes in 100 and something acres, and see, they bought other land. Now, I can't go back into all of that, but that's how it accumulated. I can go look at these records.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Well, now you didn't know Grandpa's mother. She passed before any of you all were born.
Papa's mother and Mama's mother both passed the year before they married. In 1904.
You recall Grandpa ever talking about her?
Never did talk about her much.
Is that right?
Never did.
What about the aunt? She never.
She didn't have any.
I mean, Grandpa's sisters never mentioned
Well, the only
much.
thing, Maggie is that's the one I ever talked with. I remember.
The oldest sister would have been Catherine or Cheney. But you don't ever remember talking about.
No, I didn't talk to her about it. And tried to get Aunt Maggie to talk. We her in the car with y'all have the same father. Well, I just don't have to talk about it. Back in the time when everything was slavery time. I mean, they just treated us so bad. So they never did get anything out of it. They didn't talk to me about it.
Oh,
Aunt
Maggie never spoke much about it either.
Well, she's the one who asked questions. So I have written down somewhere what she said.
Well, that's.
She said that she told me one time that her mother died before her mother. Her mother was a lone child. When she left, she came from Louisiana. When somebody bought her off the block. Bought her mother off the block. And the mother, the way she got to come to Arkansas, she cried to take me with you, and they grabbed her. And her mother, Aunt Maggie Nim's grandmother, brought her mother to Arkansas. She worked for some white people and lived up in the hills somewhere. I don't know just where. But Maggie said her mother told her that she was working for these people and they were so mean to her. They didn't even want her to go when her mother was dying. They didn't want her to even go see her. And she finally got away from those people. And that kind of thing.
So her mother lived in Arkansas? Ann Boles' mother?
She brought Ann to Arkansas.
Mm-hmm.
She brought her from Louisiana. Wait a minute. Yeah, she brought her.
And
That's how she got here.
so she's buried somewhere in
Somewhere, I don't know where.
maybe in the area of Center Point. Ann Boles' mother.
I know. I've seen that she lived up in the hills somewhere. These old white.
The hills being.
I don't know what part.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody says that. I really don't remember. I can't tell that. Because all that's. I can't.
That's
think of that.
yes.
Rochetta, I really like.
But you don't really know how. Nobody really knows how the Boles family came to live under the hill.
His Ann Boles
Mm-hmm.
homesteaded down there. She homesteaded that property.
Mm-hmm.
When she came, I guess she came wherever she came from.
Mm-hmm. And managed to homestead.
Get away from where she was reared up, and she came down and homesteaded that piece of property. And that's the original acreage. You've seen the
Deed, yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
And I've seen the homestead where she homesteaded. But I was just
Yeah.
kind of wondering what was the driving force to bring her to that particular area,
I don't know.
and the rest of the Boles family, because her kids also had property right off of that homestead.
Yeah,
They were given property off of that homestead,
Yeah.
and then so I just wondered how it came to under the hill.
That was during that was time that they were all moving down in there, I guess, and she homesteaded that, and Papa and Mama met. Uncle Sam, my grandpa lived not far from her,
Mm-hmm.
and she was on that piece of ground with her family, and they got acquainted.
Well, as fair complected as Grandpa was and the rest of them, do you ever recall any comments of any differences being made or anything in regard to the Boles, or it was just kind of like one community down there and everybody was. Grandpa he get along pretty well with white people, didn't he?
Well,
He had some pretty close.
yeah.
You recall any some of his good friends were white, but also he had some good friends who were black, didn't he?
Yeah, I guess he did.
You recall that? I'm asking too many questions.
Well, I can't.
Well, I just wondered, if a lot of times in the real world, fair complected white black folks get a little different treatment with black folks, and grandmother and grandpa complexions differed quite a bit, and I just wondered how they come through all of what they may have had to come through.
I never remember any lynching or anything like that, or anything necessarily.
But the Boles and the Weston families operated right in their community real well,
Pretty good.
along with the rest of the.
Yeah, but our family was always camping ground for the others. They
Always welcome
they always came and got.
with everybody.
Yeah, came and hauled off. That's the way they did it. ham, chickens, or whatever.
Well, grandmother grandmother and grandpa made everything
We had a plenty. We had
and shared with everybody that come along.
Mama would share with them, and they come and get it and take it. And now, if I say too much, see, I'll be telling the truth. But
Well, that's what I want the truth. But I see that was one thing I remember is that it just as a kid, and I wasn't born until '49, is it seemed like you were always welcome. Anybody that came through there was always welcome, and
Maybe Papa cuss them out before they left. Now,
I never saw Grandpa cuss, but I always seen it was always plenty
I
of.
don't have to tell the ugly side of it.
Well,
There's some stories I don't ever tell that I remember of some incident. I don't tell it.
well, that wasn't ugly, but it's just part of life.
Yeah, that's right. But anyway.
Well, you gonna tell them for this?
No, I never put that on there.
What that? Tell that story. Those are the parts that see that nobody knows.
Some that I know that I don't ever put.
Well, those are the good parts because we know that Grandpa and Grandmother were human, and Grandmother was the sweetest person. I had two of the sweetest grandmothers, and Grandmother Boles was always.
Yeah, and of course Papa was
Grandpa was a businessman though, because in looking at, I mean, he dealt in.
Maybe one day if we hadn't had him, I tell you, if he hadn't been close enough to hold on to what we had.
Yeah, in the time when.
And he had sense enough. Jerry Boles. Now here comes Jerry.
Here comes Jerry.
Good. After you still doing that?
I'm doing it, Jerry. I'm getting down to the real deal.
How you doing? Real deal.
Real deal Holyfield.
Getting along.
Oh, come on in.
Look at these here children. Hi. Come on in here. Boy, you're just getting here, huh? On your way.
Yeah, I've been trying to make all these rounds. I'm rounded out.
You want to take up this interview? You know what he's asking me?
What's that?
What's the question, guys?
Well, the question was, is the center of the universe for us as grandkids was right there at center point around the old house. But and what other folks lived around there?
Go on, Bill, answer it.
What folks lived around there, and how well did y'all get along with the rest of the people in the community? And Jerry Lee Boles and his family, y'all introduce yourself real quick.
Felicia, introduce yourself.
Tell us who you are and what you...
Oh, we gonna cut in.
Come on, Felicia.
Yes.
Tell us who you are. Give me your name.
Felicia.
Loud now so we can get it on tape.
My name is Felicia.
Felicia what?
Boles.
And your father's name is?
Jerry Boles.
And your mother's name is?
Esther Martinez.
Okay, and who's that?
Philip.
Philip who?
Boles.
And you are, who's your father?
Jerry Boles.
And your mother's name is?
Esther
Esther.
What's your mother's last name?
Martinez.
And you are?
Jerry Lee Boles.
Jerry Lee. Did I get that right?
Yeah.
Jerry Lee?
Yeah.
Jerry Lee, whose child are you?
I'm coming live at you this afternoon from Little Rock. I'm Louis Lee. Louis Lee Boles' son.
And your mother's name?
Luella Crosby.
Okay. Well, Jerry, glad to have y'all in. Yeah. We were in the midst of a hot and heavy conversation when y'all walked in. We're breaking new ground.
That's good. I'm sorry to interrupt. I tried to keep them out as long as I could.
Breaking new ground. Uncle Cleola was giving us blow by blow.
I want to hear some of this too. Go ahead. We'll sit down and we'll sit tight here.
What about y'all? Ready to eat?
We fine. You go ahead and finish the interview.
I don't know. We just 30 hour and a half into the.
And y'all be
And Uncle Cleola's only 2 years old, so we. So, Cleola, the
Well,
relationship in that community under the hill was
it was always good.
always good, and
Yeah, very good. Yeah, we had good relationship.
mhm,
In fact, the entire center point we had good race relationship. It was always good, except the incident, as I remember hearing about the incident where one that was killed. But we got along quite well. Even Jerry can tell by his playmates were white and all, and he still have them and everything.
mhm.
No.
But in terms of people always welcome at the Boles house, and Grandpa never worked, or did he? Are you recall him ever working for any company?
No, he maintained his own business. He was a farmer. He started out, as I told you, clearing the land, preparing it for farming, cutting logs, making rails, building fences or what have you. And we had only a little time to work for somebody else. We did. He always worked his own. And now, I don't remember ever having a public job.
Working for some business.
No.
But you all occasionally did work for other families or farms.
Okay, we did a little cotton chopping. Now, Louis worked for Dirk's Mill, Brady worked for Dirk's Mill.
As adults.
Yes.
But as children and as a family, when
We worked at home and did a little bit of...
the Grandpa raised most of his food,
Yeah. Eating, and his philosophy was to raise what you eat what you raise.
so he raised
Everything but the children.
animals and
Yeah, we ate pigs, we ate hogs, pork, what have you. Chickens.
Do you remember some of those days of when you all killed hogs?
I remember some, yes.
That was.
Yeah.
Can you describe how what you recall on that maybe hog killing day? What time of the year?
Early in the morning. It was November, last part of November, but near Christmas in December, when it got cold enough to save the meat.
And you all.
It's most like in December. Okay, they get up early in the morning, make a big fire around the pot, because they fattened the hogs, got them all ready, and then they got out and heated that water, had the big barrel where they put them in, scalded them, put them on the board, and scraped them, and hung them, and gutted them,
And the men did most of that. The Boles men, Grandpa and the.
women were happy. Yeah, they got down to the chitlins. We cleaned the chitlins and ground the sausage and and Papa salted the meat down. Put it away.
He had the skills to prepare the meat for.
Yeah, at first they didn't use sugar cure. They salted it down in the smokehouse. They had a smokehouse. And then they smoked it to keep the flies away and everything till it got dry. And then later they put it in sugar cube, and it was better.
Dry cure type of
Yeah.
of season. Now,
Yes.
did Grandpa
Sugar.
did the smoking himself?
They made a smoke on grill thing, in the smokehouse,
a little burner.
in an oven, and he could use hickory bark, hickory wood to make the fire. It smoked up the meat. That meat was hanging when it hanging up, especially after they salted it down so long and took it out and washed it and cleaned it and hung it. And got out and got bear brace that left this yucca plant out there and tried, hung it up with it. You couldn't break it down. And it hung there.
And
Dried.
the meat hung and cured and
That's right.
dried out there.
Yeah.
Now, you all also use the fat out of the hog and made
Made the lard. chipped it up, made lard and cracklings.
Mm-hmm.
Made sausage out the lean part and use a little fat to have in the sausage, make it do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the spleen, let me see, the tenderloin. You heard of the tenderloin?
Mm-hmm.
Those tendons. Well, they cut that out and make a steak. Like that.
Mm-hmm.
Ham, cut the hams, rounded them off.
So you all had fresh pork chops and tenderloin that y'all.
Now we didn't use too much pork chops. You use that tenderloin, put it out, and just have a little. They cut that down the back,
Mm-hmm.
and had ribs. Pull out the ribs, see, and you had the ribs, salted the ribs down, and the backbone. And but we didn't make pork chops
Just to.
when we killed hogs.
Mm-hmm.
That was the way they do it.
That was
butcher
it.
now.
Didn't slaughter
That was
them.
new. That wasn't quite as. Didn't Jerry? No, we didn't make pork
So
chops.
you all used the tenderloin without the bone.
Yes.
And then they used the ribs and made neck bones. But now the fresh pork, how did you keep it?
Y'all want a Coca-Cola? Do they drink Cokes?
They all right.
Well, y'all want to bring a sip of Coke?
That's okay.
They can find
All right, let me get one. You can have one.
They're okay for right now.
So the fresh meat y'all had to you had a plan to cure meat, the hams and all that stuff, but fresh meat y'all had to prepare it
Well,
and how did you save that? Or y'all didn't cook it all at the same time?
Really, Mom used to can some of that fresh meat
Is that right? In jars.
in jars.
Is that right?
But most of the sausage now, they hung the sausage, bagged the sausage up.
Mm-hmm.
See, they ground most of the cuttings into sausage, and they stuffed that in the bags and
Mm-hmm.
hung it up. Now it just got dry and it lasted a long time.
Of course, on the cool.
See, we didn't have any deep freeze then.
Mm-hmm.
Now come on, that's enough of that. Come on.
Well, this is see the day-to-day stuff is what really interests me now because you take a lot of that stuff for granted. Like, well, I remember the smokehouse, and then there was another house out back of the house.
That was a little well house. We had a well out there, and somebody put a shed over the well, and they boxed it in
Mm-hmm.
to put fruit in, or carry it out somehow. Sometimes fruit was stored out there.
So there was a well underneath that house too.
And that little house that was behind, that little house that you're talking about.
Right.
beside
There
the
was a
smoke.
well that
Yeah, well,
eventually
that was our well that we had.
but it was eventually abandoned,
Yes, it got closed in.
closed in. Well, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Now,
That was where we got our water.
is that right?
And then there was this other well on the south side.
That was brick and open, except for a cover over it and the bucket. I didn't know there was a well underneath that.
Yeah, it was and so that, I don't know who came along and built, I don't know who built Mama that little well house,
Mhm.
our little well house. And we carried fruit out there. And
Well, that was the canning process was something that the grandmother and the daughters, you all,
we had a pressure cooker.
hmm and you all canned all the vegetables you could and
Yeah.
put up a lot of.
Fruit, vegetables, and all kinds. Yeah. We dried it, canned it, and that's it.
And grandmother was a leader in that, in
Yeah,
teaching
she
you
taught
all.
us how we knew by the time we got 6 years old how to do it.
Is that right?
Yes.
And you all, every time there was a crop of something that you wanted to eventually save for food, or you all would can it.
Yeah. Like pick berries, the
Mhm.
fruit, the peaches. We picked peaches and apples and plums and gathered all kinds of fruit,
Mhm.
And in the fall we gathered nuts and walnuts and all of that. Put them in boxes and jars and count them, see who had the most, and we saved them. That was our winter eating.
That was for the family.
Yeah.
That was just a part of the day-to-day life.
It's Sunday evenings, you know, when we go to church, and Sunday evening we roll to the woods and find muscadines or what have you.
Is that right? Was there much? Did Grandpa and his sons kill much game at that time?
All the time. They were killing squirrels. They never did a lot of rabbit hunting. They did squirrels, rabbits, coons. That was their life in hunting season.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now that was Grandpa and
his son.
And his sons. But what about
his daughters were following behind.
And what about the other families? Did he hunt with some of the Wessons that you recall, or?
Uncle Buddy, yeah, they were all hunters.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Buddy and them always come back and hunt with Uncle Tom Piggy, Uncle Henry, and all that. They were all hunters.
And he hunted that area down under the hill and all back in the Saline River bottoms and
not Saline, but
Mesa Creek bottoms.
Down in there.
They didn't go that far.
They didn't go quite to Saline all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Saline was very well.
Well, that's real interesting. You know, that's after you look at the way Grandpa, when he was 17, started getting land, based on those deeds that you showed me, and then being able to feed a family of 11, 12.
Give him the credit for being thoughtful and even though he might go and maybe not do all he should have, but he managed to hold on to what he had.
Mm-hmm. Well, and to raise a large family, everybody.
He was a drinker before I guess before he was married.
Mm-hmm.
He drank all the time. But and you had to lay right in there and keep on fighting.
Well, we're going to talk about a little bit about that because maybe there's another skill that he had that we don't know about.
Well, yes, I said he.
Did he manage to? Did he know how to produce alcohol beverage?
Well, he sure did. Yeah. Now, I didn't plan to go into that.
Well, that's
Yes, now you ain't going into some spills.
Well, did he know how to do that? That you aware of?
Yeah.
I read a letter from Uncle
And
Nat.
all the rest of them knew how.
Is that right? They know how to. They know how
His
to.
sons followed him.
They know how to make.
Yes, but Alfred, now, nobody's told you that.
I didn't know. Jared, did you ever know?
I never knew it.
This stuff we didn't know, and nobody will really know it unless we hear it from you. That's why I'm asking these tough questions.
I tell you,
Get the tough answers.
we wouldn't know it.
Grandpa had the skills to do everything necessary, and he could also make alcohol beverage,
Yeah.
both wine and
He didn't care much about the wine.
well, have you ever seen him make it? Mm-hmm.
I didn't go up there, but I knew where it was.
Is that right? Well, that's
Yeah, it's Cass and Hubert followed him.
they knew how to do that also.
Oh, let's go on. Let's pass that now.
Well, that's pretty important part. It may not be the.
That isn't in the story. We aren't going to tell all of that.
Well, that's the history that we need to know.
That's in.
But see, somewhere down the line, that was a. I mean, it's maybe not all that great, but it's good to know that
Everybody down around in there did.
they made a lot of
I
it.
imagine they did.
Is that right?
But there's one side that there were some parts of Papa liked to drink. His brothers did. He had one brother. His brother. Now his sister and Maggie never did.
Mm.
I don't think, and I don't know the others. Okay. Now Papa drank. His sons did. He had
Some of them.
two daughters that didn't. Now can't say about the rest.
Well, yeah, but we don't really want to get on the drinking as much as the skills that
Making it.
well, what he, you know, I mean, I don't really care.
Uh-huh.
But he knew how to make
Yeah.
whiskey from a still
Yeah.
using corn.
Yes.
Is that right?
Or whatever, yeah. Yeah. I can remember the pathway going to these places. And looking out for the law to come by and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
All of that was part of life in that area.
Is that right? No. So you all produced just everything plus a little bit more, but
Let's see now. Let's see. These children are hungry. Y'all got to eat.
Well, we'll eat something in a minute after, you know.
well, I can stop. Whenever y'all want to get.
Pause a little bit.
Yeah.
Do what they gotta do.
Yeah, y'all go ahead. I want to finish up in about 3 hours. Well, we were talking about the ability of Grandpa to produce his own crop, and you all to produce your own food, and made some spirits. Then what about the grandmother was really fishing and canning and
Mama didn't
running
do
the
much
household?
fishing. Mama didn't do much fishing.
No, canning and produce and putting up food and preparation of food, cooking. Is grandmother the one that you attribute to teaching you how to cook?
Yeah. Yeah. She got my cooking from her.
You got your cooking?
I learned how to cook. I had some experience in teaching myself. I learned to try recipes.
Is that right?
I got to do nothing. Well, sometimes I stayed to cook dinner while they did the work and chopped the cotton or whatever.
No, is that right? So you prepare the lunch or dinner?
Dinner. Fix dinner. See, we had dinner at 12 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
Then had evening.
I see.
Breakfast, dinner, and supper. That was our meal thing.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have lunch and dinner. We had breakfast, dinner, and supper.
Breakfast, dinner, and supper.
Supper was the evening meal.
I see.
Dinner was the heavy meal. And then my cats come.
And
And so, I tell you the experience I had. They were chopping some cotton or something over for Burton but we got hired out of it sometime doing the work.
mm-hmm.
I stayed there to cook dinner. All right, I made too much pie crust, and I didn't know what to do with it all after making a pie. I went out and buried some. I made too much. I finally got rid of all of it. And then one day, I think Nellie did this, made up some chicken feed and put meats, salt in it for meal.
Mm-hmm.
And fed the chicken, and here comes big yard full of dead chickens.
Well, you all killed some chickens?
They,
I mean, that salt in the chicken feed killed them?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Use salt instead of meal.
And how did that go over?
That was a tragedy.
Is that right?
Well, I don't know whether it got it with them now, but it was a lot of loss.
Mm-hmm. Well, y'all had,
Yeah, we raised chickens and eggs and ducks and guineas and
Aunt Victoria was the oldest girl.
yeah.
And then,
But I was always the one that could get up in the morning real easy.
mm-hmm.
The first, my papa always went to school hunting before day, and I was the one who would wake up in the morning.
Mm-hmm.
Eat like early breakfast and take before he goes, you gotta put water on it, so poke through several times before
Mm-hmm.
get them up. But I could always get up in the early and get them off to hunting or go up to a full-day hunt.
Pour water on it.
Yeah,
You had to dribble a
I
little
got
water.
up this morning.
Is that right?
So that was the
A 4-day hunt.
Yeah, they got out there about 4 o'clock in the morning, go hunting.
Oh, I see.
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was one of the interesting facts. And I used to go hunting with them, too.
And my grandmother was, she was real efficient at running the house and keeping things going and also working in the fields, being right hand of Grandpa right there.
Right.
Is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. Hitching up the wagon. Now, Papa believed in, on Sunday morning, we always, remember we were headed for church.
Mm-hmm.
Papa was headed for the woods. Headed around
Is
the
that
field.
as far back as you can remember, y'all?
Yeah, he liked
Yeah.
it.
But y'all would go to
That
church?
boy, yeah, we all, yeah.
Where would you all go?
Well, we had a church up down there. When we had under the hill, there's a church right up there, across from Cheney's place. Before you get to the crossroad, there was a church. Mom and them had to be up there.
Mm-hmm.
And I have, where's that Latin land? I guess I'm right.
Mm-hmm.
They had, Mom and them had to build that church. You know,
Mm-hmm.
smooth the timbers, the boards to seal it with. We went to church there.
Was that a Methodist church at
This
the
is a
time?
Methodist church. I can't think.
You feeling okay, bro?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure you're feeling all right. You know, this is...
I get the background.
No, I just want you... I didn't want to be...
Yeah, I ain't crazy yet.
No, but
Yeah, I'm okay.
but that was a Methodist church underneath the hill.
Yeah, it was Bethlehem Church.
Underneath the hill. Between the...
Right, just, you never did know the road to turn to go to the camp. Turn out to go, just after you passed the school, that schoolhouse that I told you was there, Fred
Mm-hmm.
schoolhouse, was right on up there. It was a church. And the road turned to go out to the campground.
Mm-hmm. Was that at the crossroads?
No, not up as far as the crossroads.
Oh, there was another road that went out. I remember a little trail to
Yeah,
there.
well, it was a road thing.
But now, is this the Ebenezer campground?
No.
It was
Yeah,
another.
it's going out there. It's going way out to Miles Spring. Uncle Miles Spring. Yeah, it would lead you on out to the campground.
Miles Spring.
Uncle Miles had a spring out there where, out on the path, out in the east of those woods. Well, Uncle Miles, I told you, he had a house out there, a log house, and they moved off now. They had a spring down the hill from where they were.
And a spring was what? Just the water coming out of the ground?
Coming out from under the roots, you know, they always have a head.
Mm-hmm.
And springing up out of the ground is running on down.
Drinking water? Water fit to
It
drink?
was good water.
Is
Spring,
that-
Uncle Miles. Nearly every place had a spring. We didn't have one, but Papa and them dug a spring down. It wasn't on our land. It was on the Martha Sheffield land down there. It was a spring, and he put a box in it. Thing around and made it. We used water for that spring.
I see. It's lots of springs down there.
Well, Uncle Sam then had a spring. Uncle Miles had a spring. And Ben Goodson had a spring down there.
I heard somebody once say that there was a spring out in front of the house, out there in the, right out there. I don't know.
In that open space?
Well,
Where the oak trees are?
yeah, but on out farther, somewhere in there.
Well, it's down the fence.
Oh, okay.
From the bottom, you go down to the orchard. You know where the pond is?
Mm-hmm.
We passed on by the pond and they go down through there to the spring. That was the spring we had.
There used to be a road down through there that,
Yeah.
beside where the pond is now, that went to the field.
Yeah, it went all the way to the field, across, and went different ways. It went to the old mill, across over those.
Well, what old
On
mill?
out through there.
What old mill?
Well, it used to be a timber mill down in there.
Oh, is that right?
Creek, yeah.
Logging mill on Beach Creek?
Yeah, they had, yeah.
I didn't know that.
That was one of the main things.
Well, who run that?
People come in and build it, and I don't know, it was white people.
On Beach Creek.
Yeah, right on the creek there.
Mm-hmm.
Up in there. Yeah. And this is in the road going up to Uncle Pelly's place.
Mm-hmm.
Road going down to the field. Go straight on out to the Lipscomb place. This road's going everywhere.
Well, how did you all travel back during those
In the
days?
wagons.
Grandpa,
Till they bought a truck and bought a truck.
you all travel in a wagon with the mules,
Yeah.
or on horseback,
Yeah.
but mostly wagon.
Well, yeah, the same on the wagon. That was, he bought a T-model, got a T-model Ford. Now, when was T-model Fords come out?
In the 20s. Of course, they were out. They were out before that,
But
but
anyway, we had
he used the wagon and team more often
that's
than
when,
that.
even when they had to go get the doctor, they had to hop on a horse and go get him. Bring Nisa behind it. When Sonny was born, they had to go get her. It was on Halloween night, and it was.
Had to go get who?
Aunt Mises, the midwife.
Aunt Missy.
Yeah, Aunt Mises, Jones.
Black lady? Is that right?
She came from South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
She was mama's. She was about all our birth mother.
Is that right? Well, was grandmother's mother a midwife?
Mama's mother.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Her name was Mariah Wesson.
I don't know. I don't remember her being a mother.
That seemed like on that article that was in the paper, there was that she, where she passed away. It seemed like they were saying something about.
I wrote in there something about Mama's sister got sick.
No, I'm talking about the article on grandmother's mother that passed away when they put it in the Nashville News or whatever paper that was. The little clipping that you had. You remember that? They talked about her mother passing away. A little bitty news clipping.
Yeah, but I don't remember mother thing. But I remember Mama telling us about her sister named Coy. I mean, her younger sister, Dilsey. Got it real. They were in the wagon going to the field once, and she said, stop. And she was real sick. And Mama told Uncle Oscar to stop the team. And they stopped, and she had just a real headache. She had congested of the brain.
Is that right?
She died.
And who was this?
That was Mama's youngest sister. She was about 18.
No, she was real young at the time.
Yeah.
Mm.
And I remember having that somewhere in the history article. I don't remember about that.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever.
So, you all operated on this, you all rode in as a family, usually on the wagon when you had to go to town. Did you all go to town very frequently?
Well, sometimes we went on Saturday.
Saturday to Centerpoint?
Yeah, Centerpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes to Nashville when we got able to go to Nashville.
Well, Centerpoint was a pretty good sized
Yes,
town.
stores, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we went to Centerpoint. There were doctors that lived in Centerpoint, and there were nice stores.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, now I'll go back to your education. Let's talk about you and how is it that you went to school under the hill for a while, and then what was the next step for you?
Then when I went to Centerpoint, we started going to Centerpoint school.
And that was what was the name of that school?
Dunbar.
Dunbar
High School.
High School, which was actually the first to the
First to the
12th.
yeah.
Is that right? And is that where you graduated from?
That's where I graduated from. However, one year they lost their funding. They didn't have money, so they had a subscription school. So I missed that year going to school. Couldn't pay a subscription on. This was in like about the 9th grade or something. But anyway, we didn't get to go to school that year.
Is that right?
So I got a year behind. And then it was my determination to always go to college. From a little girl on up, I planned to go to school, be a teacher. And the lady who Mama's cousin, Cousin Callie, she was a very outstanding person. She lived in Austin, Texas. And she had always come back. She was a teacher then, and she come back and make talks, and she was just, she named me. And I wanted to be a teacher just like she was.
She named you?
She named me, dear. I have a picture now. And she was Mama's first cousin, Miles' daughter.
Oh, okay.
And so, it was my determination to go to school. Because I was always study. I was smart. I was the head of a class. Wasn't many in the class, but I was head of it most of the time. And I like literature, and I still can quote the poems, you name it, and I don't name it. I can quote you some poems that I want to, while I'm talking, I sure want to give you one that has meant the world to me. So anyway, we started going to school soon. Always very smart. And of course, if anybody had to stay at home, then it would always be willing to stay, but I never was willing to stay home. And I always read a book or whatever we had to do. I burned night oil doing that, getting my lesson. I always had my lesson. And so, I made good grades. When I finished high school, I was the valedictorian class. And I remember the poem I read, marching out of the graduation class, I read the Songs of Life. And so, that year I didn't know how I was going to college, and I was determined to go with no money. So we just kept hoping and planning and hoping I'd get to go. I sent an application in to Philander Smith College, and they offered me a scholarship. So I didn't know at the time was on, so I figured your clothes, and I was about to worry Papa to death. So I was picking peas over in Burton Nesbitt's. Papa, you gonna send me to school? I ain't got no money. I don't have no money. Papa, you gonna send me to school? Every day, every Monday. I ain't got no money. So one evening, my papa told Mama, Lou, we got to do something. This girl's going crazy. I told her she didn't send me to school, I go mad. Boy, he said, you're going to send me to school. I came to school with $15 and some ham and some fruit, canned fruit. And I came and I worked my way in. I thought I had a scholarship. When I got there, my scholarship had been given to Lou Ann Young, one of the school board members' daughter. She got the scholarship. I didn't have one, but I hung on in there, and I made that year, and I worked my way. And that next year, I came home, and I stayed on the, I came home and worked that summer the next year. didn't think I was going to get to go back. Well, then you had to go back money then. So Miss Khadijah Mackey, she was my dietitian, and she was supervising me over my work study work.
Mm-hmm.
So
At what's college, Uncle?
Philander. I came
Philander.
to Philander.
Philander Smith.
Yeah. September 15th. And registered and got, and I worked and studied, and I made good grades and didn't but that next year I couldn't come back, so when I came home I didn't have the money to go back because I hadn't made enough and saved the money. Can you catch that for me? Please. Somebody.
She's busy right now. Can I take a message for her? Okay. All right. You're very welcome. All right, bye-bye. Uncle, that was Michelle's house. He said he was sorry he had to rush out.
Who?
What's his name, Roger?
Ron and Michelle.
Yeah, he said thank you very much. He
Oh.
was sorry he had to go.
Okay, thank you. Skunk. He's a skunk. He's a skunk.
Now you,
Okay, thank you, Ron.
so you had to miss a year of college because of lack of funds? Didn't get to go
Well, I
back?
didn't get to go back. Mr. DeQueen started work.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working for $2 a week. $2 a week.
Doing what, Uncle?
Cooking, helping lady, and cooking or doing something
Working in
in white folks' kitchen.
working in the home, somebody's home?
Yeah,
I see.
yeah. So, Miss Edget wrote me a letter and told me, says, your tuition is paid. Come on. I had to hustle up my bus fare and get on that bus.
Well,
I
who
came
was
from
this now?
DeQueen,
What was this lady's name?
Miss Ellis and DeQueen, the white woman.
No,
Elliot,
Miss
Khadijah
Elliott
Mackey, Khadijah Mackey.
at the Philander Smith.
Yeah, she was the dietitian, Khadijah. Her name was Elliot then, but she married a Mackey and moved to Texarkana.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she said, your fee is paid. So I went on. And
Well, who paid it?
She did. She put my registration down.
She managed.
I said, well, I'll pay it back to you some days. I'll pay it back after I graduated and started teaching.
So she thought enough of you that she.
She wanted me. She needed me. Yeah, to help me help cook. And she came back and worked my way on through and just kept on. Well, then that next year, that my junior year, I went on that year.
So you worked while you were in school,
Every day,
helping Miss Mackey,
cooking,
Cooking for
washing
the-
dishes, waiting table,
cooking for the
washing
students,
dishes, cooking them beans and cooking those beans
and.
and greens and
But no,
potato pies and serving.
but now she didn't have to have you just to come and cook. Well, she must have liked you and
Well, she liked me.
thought you,
I was good help, and yeah.
and she wanted to see you get the
Yeah,
education
that's
too.
right. Yeah, she was interested. So anyway, that
So
was
she
a
went ahead
blessing.
and paid the.
Yeah, that, and I paid her back. Well, I didn't go straight on through school. I had that my junior year. I went that year, which was a sophomore, and then my second semester of the junior year, I stayed that summer work. Second semester of the junior year, I had an infected gland on my neck, and I had some serious surgery about in November. And I recuperated, and after the first semester, I saw that I didn't feel like going back to school, so I dropped out the second semester. That was 41. And when I got home to recuperate and stayed a while and worked, well, the school hired me to teach down there. I was going to try to go back to school, but they hired me to teach, and I started teaching. I got my certification and got my license and started teaching in Seneca.
Is that right?
And taught 4 years. No, 3 years. I taught until 44 there at Seneca. and came back here, and when I came back in 42, Barbara was born that summer. I came back, helped her be born.
Mm-hmm.
And then went back home. 44, Maryland was born.
Mm-hmm.
I came back from Maryland that summer. When after Maryland was born, a while that year, the school burned. Well, in the meantime, the school burned the year before. And then in 44, they had the school about ready to go back in. The church burned. And I was living in the parsonage.
Down to Centerport?
There under the parsonage. I moved out. See, the weather, I didn't have any transportation or getting there for school mornings.
Mm-hmm.
So I just moved boarding with Reverend and Miss Tyus.
I see.
And I stayed there, and the church caught fire and burned to the ground. And that was enough for me, Albert. I said, I got to leave here. So I moved, got the wagon, and moved my stuff down to East Nations and finished out the school year.
Where did they live at the time?
Right down the highway, down there on the side, on McCarty, right down the highway.
Okay, but not where they not where they lived later on.
No, they lived right down there. Down there by Lester Downs. Anyway, I stayed, when school was out, he would say, come out and see me. He would let you come to Phoenix and visit with them. So I decided I would go. In August, I came up here in Maryland, when Maryland was born. I stayed when Maryland, after she got criticized, I went back and packed my suitcase in 44. August, I took the train and went to Phoenix and stayed until 45. 45 I stayed 11 months. I worked for the Greyhound. I saved, I must have about $400 when I got back here. And saved it. And I came to Little Rock, and I took Irma and Barbara. They were little girls. I sewed. See, I was a seamstress from way back then. I took them down and had their pictures made together. You might have seen them too. I had their pictures made, and I bought me some white sheets down to Dillard's out of some of the money I've made out there. I bought me a machine. That's the table in there. And I still have the machine. And I sold, I got some material, and I made Barbara and Alfred and Dennis. No, Junior and Dennis. No, Junior and Ernest. They were pretty close together. I made them some little sunsuits. And made Barbara and Irma some little white sunsuits, which we grabbed on. We are put in. Then I sat home. I came back. Phoenix was too hot for me. I had a chance to go to California, and to LA, and spend a weekend. And I think with my cousin out there, cousin Kate. And I worked with the Greyhound the whole time I was there. In fact, I had 2 jobs. And I sold for some people. And I just came back, and when I got back home, I came to Little Rock. And while I was here, I was going to go back to, I got a job at the Frederick Hotel and worked the hotel. You remember that? Anyway, I worked a while there. And I was, they got called and asked me if I wanted to work at something. I was about ready to sign my contract. They sent me a contract. I was about ready to sign the contract to go back to Nashville, Centerport. And Big Buddy asked Miss Turner, I reckon they used me out there at North Little Rock. And he said, well, yeah, Trevor, come on, I'll talk. He talked to Mr. Who was it? Mr. Farmer. Mr. Farmer. I put in an application, got the job right there. And I worked, yeah. That's when I started working in 46 and worked into 77.
Juan Cleola, did you get your graduate?
Yeah, I went at night and on Saturdays.
From
And in 53, I graduated.
graduated from Orlando.
With a distinction in class.
Mm-hmm. That was a struggle, but you
Missed.
finally got
Yeah,
got through with it
that's right.
with the help of a lot of people
Yes,
and a lot of effort on your own.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And in the meantime, I was helping others.
Mm-hmm.
I helped. See, in the meantime, Kessler lost his wife, and Shirley and Irma and Ernest were there
Mm-hmm.
at home, and they were just like my children. And I have trouble making Mary believe or feel that they are just like mine, and why this is what she can't understand. Why they are closer to me than all other children had mothers and fathers. But these, well, I have to rear them. Those three.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they are. I consider them my children.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't say it. Somebody else take somebody else's child and say they. And Cass was a very poor father. So I have to send them to help send the children to college. Wow, bought their, I combed their hair, sewed for them, did everything for them. Irma was just like she was 13 months old.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I was gone some, but and after Mama's vision, I was their mother, so to speak.
Well, now,
Beside Mama.
well, let's talk about that for a minute, because before I get to that, you worked in the North Little Rock school system from
46, September 46 to May 77.
1977 in elementary education and adult.
Adult elementary, first grade, and a veteran,
Mm-hmm.
and then adults through the three of them.
Mm-hmm. Well, now, and you had a long, distinguished career and touched a lot of students. As
Over the years I did, old and young,
mm-hmm.
even in the adult school, now that was the most rewarding, I guess, that I had, teaching them how to read, and they were already older than I was. Like Miss Daisy Hampton, she was working out at Fort Wood, and
Mm-hmm.
come off that hill and come on down to Jones and get in those books. Miss Allen, Miss Johnson, and Miss Halliburton, and Miss Mullins, and just
and countless number of children from the East End community and.
yeah. Well, and I touched. Yeah, oh boy, that was an experience. That's why I can always appreciate the children of that community. That was where I got my living was made.
Mm.
And that community, and even though at that particular time, some of the homes and some of the families were, see, that was a new community. Some homes didn't have even a hard floor. The ground was the floor.
Mm.
At least one home. The pigs lived in that house with them. And something like that. But I went to every house that I had a child in. And I showed interest, and I brought them to school. I walked out there, dressed them and got them ready, found their shoes that they had hidden, and got them in school. And they, right now, you know some of them that still around. Some, I just see how well they're doing now. The Mitchell boys, you know those Mitchell out there in Dixie, the plumbers.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and of course, now that might not have been a family, but they are some of the families that I taught. The Lorens, you knew the Lorens.
That's right.
You know Miss Loren died.
I didn't know her. I didn't really know them. They were older than I was, but I knew of them.
Yeah. But anyway, those guys, I had many families in McCullum. There's so many.
Well, you had a long, distinguished career with the school. Well, now let's go back to grandmother and her losing her sight. And did you all have any indication that she was experiencing
Well,
a problem that?
When I came home for Easter from school,
About what year?
it was in what year were you born?
49.
It was in 1948.
No, this is Jerry, her nephew. Hey. You might be surprised. Good, and you? Good.
Is it long distance?
It's Sharon, Uncle Cleola.
Sharon.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, yes,
Okay.
you need to speak to me?
No, we're done. I didn't clean up the kitchen for you.
Okay.
Actually, I'm leaving in just a few minutes. I may come back up tomorrow. Because, I've got some, I don't know how to work this. I don't know if I'm going out to Atlanta.
Well, anyway, we'll go ahead. That's Sharon will be over here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, where was I?
Well, we were talking about grandmothers.
And anyway, she
In
said,
48
Cleola, I have some vision kind of. I didn't pay much attention. We went to church, and when I left, and then in a few days, Mama, she just got real sick. Her head was hurting so bad, and I had to come home. I came home to see about her, and she was just having terrible misery in her head. And I called the doctor, and anyway, how did I do that? So then I was just about ready to close school, and I asked Nellie, while I finished my records, I asked Nellie to come down and stay with Mama until I could finish my records and close school out.
Mm-hmm.
And as soon as I did that, and when I got back, came back, Mama just lost her vision. I carried her to New York to the doctor, and that's how she lost it that quick. It was iritis. Lost the vision.
Iritis. Is that right? But she adapted pretty well, huh?
Very Mama adapted real good, just real good. She could just amaze you when she could cook and see, and I'd come home from time to time. I was able to come home every 2 weeks. I didn't lose my job. I kept working. I thought I was going to have to give it up and come home, but I managed to hang on in there. I had to come to Little Rock and to the doctor.
Well, there was no other girls at home. All right.
Shirley and them were
We're still there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But all of the daughters
Yeah.
pretty much left
But
home.
after she addressed it, Mama and Papa had quite a while about it. Yeah. And then Papa, and that one year Papa had, he had,
Looks like a different person.
kidney, bladder infection. No, had a bladder surgery.
Mm-hmm.
But they went in through the urethra instead of doing a serious operation.
That's good.
Are they in your mind?
No, they're all right.
They came here. They said I never did see pride.
But anyway, well, they got along pretty good, but everybody worried a lot. Mama could cook and cover that food up and go ahead. I'd come home and cook them. The meals, and fix it in the ice box.
Mm-hmm.
It's about enough to do 2 weeks in the freezer. Got a deep freezer.
Well, Cleola, what about, another question is how did, the family wound up moving in various locations? Your sisters and brothers and even Grandpa's family wound up moving in different areas. How did folks come to Uncle Hubert and Aunt Victoria wind up in Phoenix?
Well, Papa, when all his people left and all while we were coming, Papa was always going to go look at a location. See, he lives in that little place, and he was going to leave to everybody else was gone. His sisters and brothers.
Mm-hmm.
Go and look at the location. Papa was going to get the location. He never did make that location. He wanted to build a rock house. His kind of house was a rock house. He wanted to build. He never did build. We just kept pecking on that piece of wood there, porching it, adding to it. Y'all come on in.
But how did,
Y'all got somebody else, I think.
No, it's just Felicia.
Okay, well stay on out, it's all right.
well, how did,
Stay in my yard.
but how did they wind up going to Phoenix?
Well,
And Aunt B there wound up in Oklahoma. And,
well, now, B.D.L. went to, she graduated, B.D.L. graduated from Locksburg. She did, the school lost a year when she graduated from Locksburg.
she stayed over in Locksburg with,
No, she just went on the bus, I think.
but she didn't catch the bus every day to Locksburg, did she?
Yeah, somebody carried her. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't have to go long. She graduated at Locksburg. All right.
Locksburg had a black school?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But when she graduated, Delson and Mays though used to visit all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And
DLC Wesson?
yeah, and Mays though,
Mm-hmm.
and make Delson, you
Delcy
know, drive
Dow.
on Delson.
Mm-hmm.
She asked Mama to let B.D.L. go and go to school. And B.D.L. she carried B.D.L. and she graduated from Langston.
Mm. And Uncle Hubert, how did he wind up in Phoenix? And with Aunt Victoria?
Well, Hubert started going to Phoenix. Hubert went to California. He went everywhere.
Was there some family in Phoenix already, or somebody out there?
Somebody that we knew, but he just went out. Hubert took Grady when he was a baby and went to Idaville, drove to Idaville and told Lon and them that was his little boy.
Mm-hmm.
He was about 15. He was driving and he went to California and that baby. Go ahead. Make yourself comfortable. Hubert went to Phoenix and he started work out there. Hubert lived out there a long time.
Mm-hmm. And then Aunt Victoria, how did she wind up going?
Well, Victoria left. Victoria got into it, and he beat her up, and they left Singapore,
Mm-hmm.
the Queen. While they were in the Queen, they got back together, and then they went to Phoenix, and they've been out there in Phoenix since.
Kind of got with Uncle Hubert. Did Uncle Hubert?
Well, say Hubert lived there.
So they wound up going there also.
Hubert was already now. Hubert was already living there. Victoria, I don't know, but I guess he was there then.
Okay, and then
Yeah.
let's see who else would have left.
We had a lot of people living in Phoenix. There was Aunt Becky, Aunt Becky, that was Coon's aunt. They used to live there. The Bensons used to live down from us in Singapore. And they had gone out there. And they lived in Phoenix, but they moved on to California. But there was a lot of people in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Tucson. From Singapore, you know, just
And then the.
visited them, be there. Tommy went to Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, Tommy lived in Tucson a while. Tommy married a boy from Roxbury, and they lived in Tucson. And he died. And she married a serviceman. She lived in South Carolina. And then she moved back, settled in Phoenix.
Mm-hmm.
Grady went out to Phoenix and stayed a while. Chelsea go went to Phoenix and stay a few days, come back.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to Phoenix and stayed 11 months, but it wasn't that place for me.
Yeah. So then, and then on Grandpa's side of the family, also Aunt Maggie wound up in Yakima, Washington.
Well, Aunt Maggie always wanted somebody to come and live with her.
But
Come
how
up
did she
here.
wind up there?
She lived in Oregon. Coos Bay.
Well, that,
Uncle Nat was in Coos Bay.
yeah.
Maggie went there, and they didn't do too good. Their living wasn't too good there, and then she went to Washington to pick apples, and that's where she
Wound up in Washington as part of the.
Yakima.
Well, now that was one of the questions: is how did part of the family wind up that far away? Coos Bay, of all the places.
Well, they
How
didn't
did-
go that right away. They went to, from some point they went to Reynoldsville, Oklahoma,
Reynoldsville. Mm-hmm.
and that's where most of her children were born.
That's Aunt Maggie.
Yeah.
Well, what about Uncle Nat?
Well, he was in Reynoldsville, and that's caused Aunt Maggie to go.
Okay,
He was out
and
there.
then he wound up and went to
And
Coos
Coos
Bay.
Bay, yeah, Aunt Maggie got in the wagon and went on up that too.
Well, what attracted him to Coos Bay, Oregon?
I don't know, just,
Out of all the places, I heard.
well, I don't know what, they just went.
Well, they had to
Getting away
be,
from Arkansas.
yeah, but it had to be something that brought them to that area. Well, I'll be on the way. I'm on the way. Well, I tell you.
Don't let me interrupt. How you doing, Cleola?
Speak, cause speak ain't speaking. I have never told you that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Hi, as the Lawson and told Laura, them girls told Laura, speak behind, speak, cause Miles ain't speaking.
Put the camera on Cleola.
They were
No.
don't put that on there.
yeah. Well, here's the missing link just came in. Lancelot.
Missing link.
The weakest link. That's not that program. I could win a lot of prizes if I could.
Well, you got
You
the.
can answer most of those, a lot of those questions,
I
can't you?
sure can. I just told Apple, I have a poem here that I just have to read it to him. While I go get it, I have to read it to him.
Okay, we go
Abu
get it.
Ben Adam.
Go
You
get
know
it.
Abu Ben Adam? Do you?
No, man.
Have you ever heard of a poem named Abu Ben Adam? Well, let me go get it because I'm going to read it right.
Okay.
Because that's one of my favorite poems, and it has a real historical background to me. Okay? Because if you can't
You don't
love
have to
your
put
fellow
your foot
man,
up, Uncle Lil. You don't have to put that foot up.
I'll make it. I'm not going to bark off everything. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to
it's cold. I know it's the truth. Lord, mercy. Well,
go ahead and get it though. Help Uncle Lil get through.
I want to read this poem to you that lady wrote.
Okay.
I want to read that poem to you right up there that,
Okay.
that your sister wrote me. That is the most beautiful poem. Have you ever read it?
Who wrote it?
Your sister Jackie.
Is that right? Let me.
I want to read it.
Okay.
Yeah, first of all. How y'all making it?
Well, this is a day, ordinary day. So you got your book of poems, or is that the Bible?
This is one of the most beautiful book poems that I inherited. I have some beautiful. Do you know very many poems? You know Victoria's
E-I-E-I-O.
Victoria's poem was, I stood on the bridge at midnight while the clock was striking the hour. Have you ever heard of that poem?
No, man.
That's the one that she said when she was in school.
Mm-hmm.
Another poem that is famous, the Bridge Builder. You know that poem?
No, man.
Y'all need to learn something.
But see, well, it's a pretty old book.
I know.
You know, I still got that book you gave me. Book of Life, I think is the name of it. Book of Life. Paperback book. I'll show it to you. The book was printed in 1941, I think.
Read that poem after. That's Jackie.
Read.
Please read that to Wayne.
You want Wayne to read it, Uncle Lil, or
Yeah.
you don't read it?
Let
This
him
is my
read
wonderful
it to you.
aunt.
Yeah, that's so precious. I want it heard.
Read it, Dennis, Wayne.
Okay, this is a poem from From Jackie. This is from Jackie to Aunt Cleola, to my wonderful aunt. I know I haven't always told you how I feel, at least not in so many words. But it means a lot to me to have you in my life. Whenever I think of you or talk about you, it is always with pride and respect and love. No matter where life takes me or how much time passes by, you will always be an important part of my life. I feel very fortunate to have an aunt as wonderful as you.
Now,
That's
That
nice.
wasn't a poem.
Jackie really write that.
That wasn't a poem, though, was it?
that's a
Where
point.
did you say it was?
But that was a nice. That was a nice.
I tell you what now, you think I can,
Nice gesture.
That was real
and
nice.
I get so many of those. Wayne has one, a card over there. And do you think I can throw those things away? Go look in my bedroom, you can't see it.
You can't throw those things away,
Boxes,
Cleo.
those kind, huh?
Especially if it came from me.
Read this one. This is for my adopted student's mother from Albuquerque, New Mexico.
Francis Bell Agnes.
Move it out of your face, Wayne.
Okay. This is from
Is it in your purse?
from Francis
Can you look
Bell
at the camera?
Agnes.
Can you look at the camera and read it?
I don't think so. About a news commentator or something. Okay. This is
Getting a cockeyed anyway. Go
okay.
ahead, man. Read.
This is
Read. Let's go.
Wayne Harris reporting. This was presented to Cleola Boles from Jane Agnes on 12/25/96. Cleola Boles, a very special lady we have today. An exorbitant fact I must convey. She does her share with a hearty smile because it takes a village to raise a child. Teaching was her occupation, committed to giving a good education. She'll bake a pie or a delicious cake for friends and neighbors to partake. She bakes and cooks very late at night to soothe one's palate with exquisite delight. After all is said and done, she always does her part, then flashes a smile right from the heart. She does not have a goat or hen, but raises fresh veggies from her own garden. It is a fact that we all know, a prize she'll win with the garden show. She comforts those who are in need and drives the needy as a neighborly deed. After others' needs she has pleased, she takes time to rest and catches her Z's. To her church commitments, so dedicated as a servant of God, she's consecrated. The more she gives, extended strength God gives. God truly honors the way she lives. It is so nice to know such a one, and one day God will say, well done. By Francis Bell Agnes. Again, presented to Cleola Boles from Agnes, 12/25/96. That's nice. She wrote that. She actually wrote that. Made that up.
That's all right. Y'all just keep on operating.
Francis James is my adopted student
Mm-hmm.
from Philander. We adopted her in 98. I mean, in 80 when she graduated. In 85 when she graduated from college. I adopted her as my adopted student.
Mm-hmm.
She lived here. So we went back to New Mexico with her mother. Used to come down and she wrote that poem, her mother.
Mm-hmm.
She told, I read it to my one day, she told me to put on my room program. So y'all put that on your room program. But that's just some of the things.
That's good. That's just a good.
Isn't that something? Yeah, y'all finna go.
Yeah, where y'all headed?
Man,
Well, listen, honey, let's wait just a minute. Now, let me give you
what's going 4 hours on you?
Man, I had to get Brent some tires, man.
I know,
Boy, end up with
Yeah, y'all not gonna get to
tires of steel coming out of the tire.
Uncle, that's what they got on their mind.
Going
You
where?
don't just fly down there.
I ain't
You
gonna
can't
fly.
fly. Here,
Where you
now,
going? Center Point?
Center Point.
You going back to Center Point?
Yeah, they left their clothes down there. They want to go to the football game.
You going south from there or going east?
No, I may have to
You
come
coming
back this way, yeah. Because this is the way out of here. So,
Which way did y'all come? You came up through Shreveport, didn't
I came up through New Orleans.
Well, you get 20 and go across to Jackson, don't you?
Yeah, I can do that. Or I
You
can
need
go.
to come on back up there, man. You
I
get
go
on
up
up Monday
there.
morning.
Yeah.
you got any tens, do you? So you, well, I'll give you I'll
I
find
got
it.
110.
I
You
will
need
find
that?
it. No, I won't let you change it. You give. I'm gonna give you some 20s and let you change. I want Bud to have 10 and at least 2, and Ashley.
Okay.
Let me find
So
it.
my 2 ain't necessary.
Well, they
Vera-
here.
Vera didn't know.
I
No.
share.
I don't know where they are.
Let me find it. I got
I'm
it.
very
Well,
upset.
I've lost out on the interview now. We were ready at the brink of the steel.
Well,
The steel we're gonna find out what the
when
steel
you got to,
produced.
I tell you what, I'm just.
Well, Alfred, some interviews are not all done in one sitting. You gotta come back.
It's money.
That's what.
I'm talking about the juice producing steel.
Yeah, I know what he's talking about.
What, Felicia?
Alfred talking about Katie May.
Hold on, boy.
Man,
What y'all find, Wayne?
Felicia, you gonna stay with me? I need a little compadre. You know I got a puppy. I got a little puppy at home.
Y'all get everything, son.
You like dogs?
Huh?
I got a little looking for his keys.
Jerry, did you get everything?
Yes, ma'am. So I can tell you, picture, we got the number go in there.
What we have?
Everything washed and put up.
Ooh,
What is
Anybody in Uncle Ethan's house?
Somebody's there. I don't know who it is. Oh, you know what? I didn't get. Now what's it up here?
the what?
The tires.
The Spanish.
You know Thanatos?
No, man.
The last 10 lines. So it is that someone's come to join the numerous and carry them.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know Invictus?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, you know that because that was your
That
daddy's.
is. We like
straight
poetry.
one. Well, this one that I was going to read to you. Now, this it's wonderful to have. I inherited some old books. This came from Cousin Florence. This poem, it has some precious poems in it. But anyway, it goes like this. It's called Abu Ben Adam. Abou Bou Ben Adam. Abu Ben Adam. Abu Ben Adam made his tribe increase. Awoke one night in a deep dream of peace. I might not have it exactly. And saw within the vision in his room vision writing and said, "What writest thou?" I can't name it all. I wish I could read it. "What writest thou?" He said, those who love the Lord. And his mind one? Nay, not so. Had Ben Adam said. But right mind is one who loves his fellow man. The vision wrote and disappeared. And the next night he came back. And he said, do you read the names that you have? Did you write mine? He said, nay, not as one who loved the Lord. But anyway, his name led all of the rest. He didn't say he loved the Lord, he loved his fellow man. Mm-hmm. And his name led all of the rest because you can't love the Lord unless you love your fellow man. Mm-hmm. And that was what made that poem. And have you ever heard of one named The Moving Finger Writes in Heaven Written Moves On? Now all your pieties of wit shall lure it back to cancel half a line. Now all your tears can wash away words yet. That's Rubaiyat of Omakaya. Mm-hmm. That's that poem. And have you ever heard of Macbeth's soliloquy? Mm-hmm. Macbeth? Well, I can recite that one. Now that's enough of that, so you just go on now with whatever else you want to know.
Well, I was,
Yeah,
we were talking about grandmother's vision and how she managed real well after she lost her sight. And,
yeah, she adjusted to where she could even sew, she could cook, but it was dangerous for cooking. But as long as Papa had his vision to help us see how to do it.
You going straight to the stadium?
Yeah. Cleola, I gotta go. In case I don't see you tomorrow.
Have the
Okay, I
children,
love you.
have the children write to me.
Oh, I will. Felicia, right? She loves that.
Tell them where I live and how to spell
Okay.
her name.
All right.
And y'all,
Is Alfred progressing? Is he gonna get the answers to the steal? That's that in the big house is what he want to know.
A lot of effort going on.
Uncle Square.
He don't.
I want to know about Uncle Square.
Uncle Square. What's Uncle Square?
You remember Square? Grandpa's friend named Square. You remember him?
I don't know, square who?
That was I don't know. They called him Square. There's Square. When he was a white man that used to come down and visit Grandpa. Named Square. That's all I know. Used to see him when we drove into Center Point sometimes, and when I'd come in, there's Square.
I don't remember. Well,
You tired, Uncle?
go ahead.
Well, what I'm trying to.
You got to get you some rest.
Well, there's a lot of things that we didn't get into, didn't cover.
Well, what do you want me to do?
Well, I'm trying to recall who might have lived in that house and who, really the ideal situation is to go back and see who Ann Boles' mother was and
Well, I can't tell you that.
who the fathers,
Of the children.
who the father of the children are.
Well,
so we can go back
that
farther.
I can't tell you because I asked Aunt Maggie what we want to know. Did all of them have the same father?
Mm-hmm.
And she never did tell us.
But
I never did ask Papa.
She may not have known,
I don't know whether she knew.
being
or
the
not.
baby.
Well, I didn't ask nobody.
Did she know?
I can't know.
Did she know who her father was?
I don't know. She never did tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And nobody ever told me.
See,
I can't never. And I never asked Papa.
mm-hmm.
Because she was a miss. She wasn't married. And she worked for some people. And I don't know who the father was. I never did know.
What people did she work for?
I didn't know. I didn't know.
Well, now she's buried down underneath the
She's
hill.
buried there. Now, why we know where she's buried, and she died. I guess Aunt Maggie was here when I guess Aunt Maggie lived here when she died.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason that we know where she lives, Aunt Maggie told Papa if she put a tombstone at her mother's grave, he could have her 5 acres of land. And he bought the tombstone.
Mm-hmm.
And put her, and guys, that's how we know where she's buried.
Well, what year did she get the tombstone?
What year was it?
Way back,
It was before,
as you all were kids.
I guess. I don't know just when. I don't remember putting it down.
Was it down there when you were
Yeah,
a
as
child?
long as I can remember, because that little baby that died was buried right near her.
Well, who else would have been buried in that cemetery?
Well, I know.
Well, what was the connection with the cemetery? Usually they were tied to a church.
Well, I don't know whether it was a church up at the top of the hill, but I don't know who was. I know Mr. Uncle Clayton was buried there. Clayton Sheffield. He lived down there. He was buried there, and he brought a daughter from Hot Springs and buried her there. And Cheney has a son named Ray. He's buried there near my grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
And named Rachel Whitmore Uncle Spatnam had a son and a daughter buried there.
Spat was
And
Whitmore.
his mother,
Those were
yeah,
Whitmores.
Whitmore. And his uncle, Aunt Rachel's, Aunt Red was Mr. Pelly's mother, I believe, Pelly Jackson.
Well, now those were people in that community that lived down there. But were they Methodists or Baptists or
Well,
do
see,
you know,
I don't
of
really,
all type
I guess
denomination?
all time, but there was a church at the top of the hill.
Mm.
It was an AME church up at the top of the hill. The AME church, Bethel AME Church Conference, owned that. Right up at the top of the red hill, right over to the right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an acre of land. Uncle Noah Whitmore gave them the lot that they had this church built on. And Papa had the deed to it. He sent me to Hot Springs to talk to while I was going to Hot Springs, to the bishop, the presiding elder who lived over there, Reverend somebody. And I talked to him. He didn't know anything about it. He couldn't handle it. I talked to Reverend Webster. Well, they couldn't do anything about it because they didn't know the conference had to go through it. So I didn't. Papa wanted to see if they'd sell it, but I never did find out.
So don't know if they owned it or
Cuba
not.
cut some timber off it once, and I guess warehouse. I don't know who owned it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But the church, I don't know.
Well, now, how long has the church, the AME church, been in Centerpoint? That was the Wesley. How long has it been?
The Wesley Church.
And that cemetery existed.
Before my mother was born, I guess.
So there was two AME churches.
Now
there?
that's a Methodist. That's a Methodist church.
Which one?
Centerpoint and Cemetery.
Well, AME.
It's
African.
not AM. No, it's not AM.
It's not A. It's.
No, it's Methodist.
Oh, is that right? Wesley Methodist Church.
Episcopal Church.
Oh, it's
Methodist.
not African Episcopal. But the cemetery was there for.
Well, it was the beginning of time, I guess. I don't know just how
Really.
when they started on that. I don't know. That's the only black cemetery they have up there, as I know of.
And then there were some other cemeteries down underneath the hill that.
As I told you, it was supposed to be one, I know. I don't know about any of them, but I knew about the one where Jimmy Scott's mother.
Jimmy Scott.
Because it was a tombstone there.
Yeah.
But I don't know about the other.
Jimmy Scott was.
May Scott's son. I helped with the grandchildren living in Philadelphia.
Is that right?
Jimmy Scott's daughter, 2 daughters.
Well.
So, but now there's at that cemetery where our grandmother is. See, I can just remember the people that have been buried. There's a lot of people out there that I don't even know. Mr. Pellet, I told you his son killed him. He was buried there, but he never got his grandchildren to ever go and
Uncle Si Hendricks.
I don't know him. I didn't know him. I don't know who his family was. They came here.
I see.
Barney side. I believe Barney was the side. He used to pop in and say he used to let his bowels move and roll his excretion in the fireplace under his stick. That's what I sort of heard about him. Papa used to tell that kind of joke about it. But I don't. You're not certain that.
Yeah, whatever you say is going down.
Oh mercy! I want to talk about the good things now. Whatever.
Well, that's
Well, whatever it is, whatever I've said.
What is the best thing that you can recall about Centerpoint family and everything, anything?
The good things we had stern parents. We didn't do anything we wanted to do. We had good supervision. Both of them. Mama and Papa both wanted us to do well, regardless of what. And if we did wrong, it was just bad.
Well, Uncle, I appreciate your time in this. I didn't, maybe I can finish it up. I don't know if I'll have time tomorrow, but I want to get to the, still ain't got to the.
You're going to spend some time with your mama.
Yes, ma'am, I need to get on down there.
Well, you just go and wait, just bring, that's enough of this mess.
Well, this is history. History has always been important in your lessons.
Well, I one thing about it, Alfred, I can appreciate the good Lord has been so good to me to let me keep what memory. Now, everybody don't have to maintain the kind of memories that I have. Everyone can relate to the things that happen like that. I don't think, and I have so far, but you can't tell the next minute I might not. You can't tell when I won't. So I'm willing to share it anytime, any amount. Let me see.
I wonder who would have built houses that, you know, if Ann Boles built that, had that house built, who would have built it? You know, that's those kind of questions. Who would have helped? Who helped construct? That house had intricate log work. Those were hand-sawn logs. That's and the chimney. That would a woman.
Uncle Tom. He married in Castle. I think he had a house down. He had a log house down there too.
But who would have? Somebody would have worked hard to build that house. And
now Lewis Turner was a carpenter, but he wasn't quite as old as Papa. But they lived he didn't live down there then.
See, somebody in the chimney, they didn't use stone; they used clay and straw, and that's kind of a primitive method.
Well, I don't even know who the people were.
That's a real primitive method of building a chimney. I'm gonna try to run that history
now, I don't
down.
even know any of the old people's name. Too many that that were associated with grandmother.
So I don't think at some point in time they stopped building log houses and used to build when they didn't use logs when they had lumber. Logs were before they had the lumber.
Yeah.
So this house was built before a sawmill come along. They had to. So that
they hewed out.
They hands on. Yeah, those were. So that goes back. That house goes back.
About 80 years.
No, back to 1850s and 1840s. I bet that house goes back every bit of that. It didn't have a tin roof on it. Did it have wood shingles at one time?
What was on it when it fell?
Well, see, that house has got look like it's got
boards. They've made the boards.
Well, but it looked like it had a roofing shingles on it when it fell in, which would have been put on later. But usually when people have tin on the roof, they leave it on. If you got the tin roof,
Well, I guess.
you don't remember a tin roof on it.
Papa used to make boards.
They used to make their own boards.
The boards.
Well, that's made their own shingles.
I thought that was you leaving.
Wayne, you going?
Yeah.
Where you going, man?
Well, I'm trying to find Rihanna, man. I got Felicia gonna spend the night. Gonna stay with Ree, and so I'm trying to find Ree. So
Wait.
Call down to Mama's right quick.
I just called line's busy, so we're gonna go on down there.
Well, I'm on my way.
I'll leave the extension cords.
Felicia, I'll tell
Well,
you.
here's what to do. I
Wait,
bought a
did
phone,
you do it
and
to cookies?
it's on Daddy's desk.
Did
Oh, my dad's a
It needs to go on that corner, but it needs to plug in over by Mama's desk.
Cord.
And then plug
you get
in the
your
phone
money?
line so the phone, cordless phone
Well,
works.
okay, darling.
Okay. All right, I'll be down. I'm not going nowhere.
Okay. Well, Cleola, we're going to end this interview. A lot of interruptions. And
Wayne, come back to see me. Wayne.
I don't think he can hear you. I'll tell him.
They don't know my toe is sitting. You can't even move.
Well, what can I do to?
Nothing.
Cleola, we're going to end
You
this
can't
interview,
move
but
it. You can't move it.
can't move your toe.
No.
Well, but every time you hit something, it kills you, don't it?
See, it's this.
Well, Uncle Ella, are you having any problems with your left side?
No, I'm not.
You're not?
The heart.
No, you having...
Breathing problems.
Well, any indications...
Heart trouble.
Any indications that you
Stroke?
stroke?
No, I'm not in any.
Yeah, I saw you holding your left hand there.
Well, now my hand's not quite as strong, and I have to help it a little bit.
But is it bothering you now?
No.
It hasn't been bothering you. I'm going to cut this off right now.
No.